Hey, I'm Adam Thompson. I'm a consultant in strategy and organisational design, and today I want to talk to you about the ubiquitous ERP, the big system that your organisation probably has recently gone through or is about to go through. There's some things that you need to know before you finalise investing in this stuff. Let's get right into it. I want to introduce you to Gerry Fish, fictional character in one of Eli Goldratt's last books called Necessary But Not Sufficient. Compulsory reading if you're involved in any way in putting in an ERP, which includes CEOs in particular. Now, there's no picture of Gerry, but I reckon he would have looked like this. You've got to know when to hold him. So here's the situation Gerry was working with. He was in an industry where the ability to get things to customers on time really mattered, and the current turnaround time that was standard was 10 weeks, which is what Gerry was hitting quite successfully. He did some analysis.
One question. How can you be sure it won't blow up?
The laser?
The moon.
In terms of what an enterprise resource planning system could do, and it was worked out that the front of the process was taking 3, the front being the actual quoting and the arranging of the materials, getting them ready for production, which is called pre-production, and the production itself would take 7 weeks, that would take 3 weeks, giving a total of 10 weeks as the production that was occurring for Gerry. What he worked out is that if that could be dropped down to 7 weeks, he'd be able to get significantly more business. And by the way, in the story, he went out and found out how much more business that would be, because that would give him the revenue that he could make, which could pay for his ERP. Now, if you're in a membership game or a community game or something that doesn't have profit as your main goal, profit's a support to what you're doing, we're still talking about what the benefit would be. We still need to find that out. So let's keep going on Gerry's story. So what Gerry does is he puts in the ERP.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
And what's discovered very quickly is the time up here indeed goes from 3 weeks down to 1 day, almost instantaneous, which in theory should mean that the rest of the show should take 7 weeks to get done. But instead, what he discovers is it goes out to 10 weeks. So now in the story, we do some analysis why. And this is what we discover. Standard production process before bringing in the changes was this work center would take 2 weeks to do each thing. This would take 4 weeks to do each thing. This would take 1 week to do each thing. So a given piece would take 7 weeks to move through. So the idea being by chopping that time off the front, Bob's your uncle. But here's the key thing. By actually being able to chop this time off the front here, these guys were able to complete 3 weeks worth of work, let's say in a day. So that meant that a factory that was once handling at any given point of time 7 weeks of work coming through it is now handling 10 weeks of work coming through it with the same amount of workload. And so what that meant was, this is the pace setter here, because it's the one that takes the longest in the process. So these guys were getting swamped with work, and we all know what happens when you get swamped with work in terms of what needs to happen next. We get overwhelmed and naturally we slow down. So what was happening in the story is production of this had actually gone to 7 weeks, which was causing the overall time to go through, if we added up, 2 plus 7 plus 1 was occurring to 10 weeks. In other words, we were back where we started. So what was the solution? Well, what they did is they actually did a bit of theory of constraints management and focused on getting this down. No point making that quicker, no point making that quicker. What we need to do is make this one quicker so it can do things in quicker than 7 weeks. And they gradually got this down back to where they needed it to be, which was 4 weeks once again, giving the total of 2 plus 4 plus 1, gave them a total of the 7 weeks that they'd always anticipated, back to what they wanted. The ERP was able to assist in doing this because having that technology allowed them to get the work lined up better so that things were never delayed coming into this. This, as their pace setter machine, is the crucial one to keep operating all the time, and by using the ERP to better organise things on the way in, better information, better sequencing of work, they're able to get this to go forward. That's how the use of the ERP was able to get into the new market. And then because of the power of the ERP, what Gerry realised, if he were able to offer customers an expedited process through, then he'd be able to charge a significant amount more. And having an ERP allowed the sequencing of the work to go through such that they could keep the regular work going through at the rate of 7, but for expedited things, they could whiz that through to the front of the queue, and the ERP allowed them to do that without blowing up the whole system with bits of paper and confusion going everywhere. So these are the steps that we can learn in terms of what Gerry's carried out. First, he got clear on what the benefit was. He was lucky enough to have straight out profit. You might not be that lucky, but it's still crucial to work out what the benefit could be. He tested whether that benefit would actually be valued by those receiving it. Then he looked at the way his processes worked and worked out a way that the processes could work better to create that benefit, should there be better information and sequencing and all those sort of things that technology is able to do. Then he implemented that and kept an eye on it and made the adjustments required so it would work. So did you notice that he did not go out and buy an ERP and then try to figure out how it worked? He definitely didn't start with the financial reports under the idea that it was fancy reports that was holding him back. And he was true to what my dad once said when I showed him a web page back in 1997, which was, he said, "That looks good, son, and if you can show me how that's going to make my business more money, I might get myself one of those web pages. Perhaps a lesson we could all learn a bit better next time we're thinking about putting in an ERP. That's all for now. My business is Thompson Organisations. You can contact me there, or if you like, you can get in touch with the usual socials. They work fine as well. If you'd like to get the article that goes along with this, as well as the video every week, sign up to my blog, zenorganisations.com. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.
You got to know when to hold, know when to fold, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count.